It is 6 p.m. and we have a quorum.
Yes, sir, we sure do.
All right. So with that, item number one.
Okay. Item number,
Oh, no. Do we need a,
I'm sorry.
sorry, is everyone logged in?
Yes. Okay. Item number 2 is public comment. I have nobody that's signed up to speak during this portion. We will have someone that wants to speak during a posted public hearing later.
Okay.
So then item 3 is consent agenda.
All right. So we have an A and a B. Does anybody want to speak about either one of those items?
I just have a question for city staff about, can you just give me a Cliff Notes version of item 3B, just so I have an understanding of what we're voting on?
Sure, good evening. So yeah, this is a single lot final plat for a commercial development near the intersection of Highway 66 and Ben Payne Road. There was a 3-lot preliminary plat previously approved by City Council, and instead of all 3 lots coming in as final plats, together, as each lot is sold and kind of prepared for development, they're coming in with their own detailed final plat. So it's really just a continuation of a final plat for the property just to the east, which has been approved and is now getting ready to be under construction. Follows the internal and external circulation requirements. So that's basically what we have here.
All right. Well, with that, take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Are you? Okay, we got. Okay, there we go. Motion passes.
All right, the next item is going to be agenda item 4A, which is an application for approval of a zoning change request from agricultural to planned development. And that case is case number ZR 25-007.
You on all your screens? Good evening, P&Z Commission, City of Fate. My name's Robbie Highfield. I'm the senior planner for the City of Fate. I'll be giving the staff presentation on the Sundale Heights single-family subdivision, project ID ZR 25007. Here's the location off of Greenbrier, west of Blackland Road, next to Reserve at Chamberlain Crossing Phase 1 and 2. Here's the concept plan for the property. It's oriented east. So if you'll recall, this application came to you not too long ago. It was recommended it was a straight zoning request at that time. It's case ZR 25002, which was recommended for approval by P&Z, but ultimately denied unanimously at council. While normally projects are required to wait a year, there is an exception if they address direct concerns from the council or staff. Those concerns being design, in this case, were design standards in the development agreement, traffic, and drainage. The applicants did address all that in their resubmittal and therefore were permitted to resubmit at this time. So this project is a agriculture to planned development zoning case. Planned development would be called PDSH, Planned Development Sundale Heights. It's a 98-home, single-family subdivision, which is reduced from the previous 102 homes. The base zoning district for the PD will be R2, essentially meaning any standards not addressed in the plan development would default to the R2 zoning standards in the Fate Unified Development. Highlighting some of the development standards in this project, the main ones are that lot dimensions are 50 by 100 foot minimums. The lot area is 5,000 square feet minimum. The lot coverage, meaning the house coverage on the lot, is 50%. The max height is 30 feet to the eave or parapet and 40 feet to the top of the roof. And gross and net density is set at 4.92 dwelling units per acres and 5.87 dwelling unit per acre, respectively. This is a picture of the current property. You're facing north here off of Greenbrier Road. It's currently 3 lots totaling 19.88 acres. Yeah. Would you like a cough drop, Commissioner? In Valen's desk, there's some as well. Oh, Zinzi has cough drops. Zinzi has a cough drop carry if you'd like some. We good? Yeah, no worries. Would you like me to go back at all? Okay, we're good? Perfect. So this is a 3-lot property, 19.88 acres, on Greenbrier Road, directly west of North Churchill Road, currently zoned to agriculture. And currently there's 2 homes and family farming occurring on the site. So the approval criteria for a zoning case is, does it meet the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans? Does it meet the character of the surrounding neighborhood? And are there any other factors required or allowed by Texas law or case law? So approval criteria A, this property is in the suburban neighborhood place type, and planned developments are a representative zoning district. And single family, which is the representative use in this planned development, is also representative in the suburban neighborhood place type. Approval criteria B, does it meet the character of the surrounding neighborhood? This property is surrounded by subdivisions. To the north is Reserve at Chamberlain Phase 3. To the east is Reserve Phase 1 and 2. To the south is Chamberlain Crossing, and to the west is Reserve at Chamberlain Phase 4. Additionally, to the east, approximately 570 feet, is Joe Berger Park. And parks are a compatible use with a subdivision. So based on the surrounding properties being single-family residential, as well as having a park nearby and part of the PD, including the developers building a connection from their property across an open space on Reserve to connect to Joe Berger, staff find criteria B being met. Criterion C is not applicable in this case. So as with all zoning requests, we send out public notice. You can see in yellow the parcels that were noticed, and in blue is the project area. 80 notices were sent out, and we received 2 responses as of today at 1:45. Did not receive any other responses since then. Both responses were against. And a summary of the reasonings for their concerns were traffic, issues with bad drivers, existing traffic is bad already, concerns that Churchill and Robinson are used as cut-throughs to Blackland, so the development tying into Stewart would worsen that. Concerns that Greenbrier isn't safe for pedestrians, so additional development should not be added, and that concerns that 18-wheelers currently use Greenbrier, creating noise. There were also DPS concerns, namely not enough staff patrol, or not enough DPS staff to adequately patrol the area, and a lack of DPS's ability to enforce speed limits. So as with all zoning requests, we did a fiscal analysis. Year one contribution to the city is just over $92,000. The total proportionate cost is just under $59,000. The annual project net revenue with roads is a loss of $47,500. Over 40 years with roads, that's a loss of $1.8 million. The revenue to cost ratio without roads is 1.56. However, when you factor in roads, that revenue to cost ratio decreases to 0.66 to 1, which is a negative, as 1 to 1 is considered breaking even. The private to public ratio is 12.1 to 1, which is about 42 years to repay. And the target goal is a 20 to 1 ratio. So on top of just running the fiscal analysis, we did a comparison for Sundale Heights productivity compared to the surrounding neighborhoods. The surrounding phases, I should say, for Reserve at Chamberlain Crossing Phase 1 and 2, which it would be tying into, and then Reserve Phase 3, which is to the north. I'm not going to read out all of these numbers for time, but if we have questions on productivity comparison, we can bring the slide back up and go over it. Effectively, this is saying that while this is while the fiscal analysis does not result in a net positive for the community, comparative to Reserve Phases 1 and 2 and Reserve Phase 3, this product is a bit better than what we have seen in the past. I will also note that fiscal analyses are just an informative tool. They are not an approval criteria and therefore do not play into staff recommendation, nor should they play into P&Z or City Council determination. So staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions. Those conditions are as follows. The plan development shall follow the development standards listed in the plan development exhibit. The development standards shall follow the recommendations as reviewed and approved by city staff and consultants from the traffic impact analysis, the TIA, and the drainage study. If complications to the proposed layout are found during the civil plan review, which is administrative, amendments to the proposed layout shall be made to resolve any and all issues. In the development regulations table in the plan development exhibit, a row titled Required Open Space, Acres and Percent shall be added. The requirement shall be set at 3.2 acres and 16%. Those numbers were chosen as it is what the developer is currently proposing in their concept plan. So we just set those as the base requirement. And in the development regulation table in the plan development exhibit, the base zoning row shall be changed from stating agriculture or unzoned to stating residential suburban density 2. Additionally, the permitted uses row shall be changed from stating R2 to stating single family residential and amenity center. This condition is just more of a clerical thing within the development rather than a change to what they're actually proposing, just for future enforcement, make everything more clear and succinct. And staff presentation, I can take any questions now. The applicants are here and they do have a presentation, so I can take questions after as well.
Anyone have any questions for Robbie at this time? All right, I think we're good. Thank you, Robbie.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. William Solomon, President, SMK Capital, 4512 Legacy Road, Plano, Texas. Coming back to see you all again. Hopefully everyone's having a good evening. Talk just a little bit about Sundale Heights. So as we've all talked, Summa Monde Capital Partners, private equity firm. We own property in 19 different states. We do quite a bit of land development, land banking, and investment strategies across the country. Headquarters obviously here in Texas in the DFW area. Just a quick sort of point of order about our presence. I know many of you have seen this before. A lot of Midwest Sunbelt development. As it pertains to Sundale Heights, as we've talked about, community of single-family homes. Ultimate goal here is to obviously create homeowners. This is not any bait and switch, any build for rent, any of the things that we've talked about in prior iterations or meetings. Would like to comment that staff and P&Z have been excellent to work with on the revision. As we go from sort of a straight rezone request to a planned development request. We were happy in our last meeting to adhere to all of the things that we talked about. So I think really our development agreement just sort of formulated in writing a lot of what we were saying, being able to sort of put that to paper. Here's a rendering of that. As we said, a lot of brick exterior, higher finish on the frontage and facade, which is all addressed in the development agreement. For us, like I said, target point here, 350 to 450, 98 homes down from 102. That was to make sure that we would adhere to the minimum 50-foot lot standard, which was fine. Target home size on these average of 2,000 square feet. We do have common facility, which we will take a look at in here as well, which we can talk about. I don't think you guys saw this in our last presentation. We do have a proposed clubhouse, 3,500 square feet, minimum 20 by 40 swimming pool as well. Something nice for the community to have. That's a common area, common amenity benefit for the community. We've had 2 DRC meetings, as we mentioned. We've engaged wonderfully. As I've said prior, the City of Fate staff is excellent to work with. We work with a lot of communities in Texas. It has been friendly, thoughtful, and also quite professional. So we previously, like I said, had an approval vote on April 17th. We sort of did not take the temperature, speaking frankly, of how much planned development preference there was relative to straight rezone in some of the communities in the area. So happily we're willing to come back and sort of put pen to paper on that. As we mentioned, we plan to develop this, initiate the process of platting. As we did last time when we were in front of your committee, we would appreciate your approval. We'd be here to happily answer any questions that you guys have. And really the last thing for us is just, like I said, how thankful we are that we have the opportunity to address any shortcomings, come back in front of you guys, and make sure that we all work together as a collaboration. So thank you.
Any questions from the board? You're all good with staff recommendations?
I'm all good with staff recommendations. They've been a delight to work with, and we've put in our proposed development agreement everything that we said we would do, so we're great. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to open the public hearing? Okay.
It
Yeah.
is 6:20. We're opening a public hearing.
Okay. And I have one person that signed up to speak, that person being Sharon Tooley, address 171 Chamberlain.
Good evening, Sharon Tooley, 171 Chamberlain Drive, Fate, Texas. So I'm going to start with kind of the same thing that we heard last time, that we heard today. The difference is this. In the packet that was posted online, that all of the citizens of Fate as well as yourselves, rely on for information, it's very lacking with transparency. The City of Fate citizens look for one thing, and that's transparency and factual information. So let's talk about that. When you start out, you do a letter of authorization for an applicant to represent an owner, a developer, whatever the case may be. Mr. Solomon is named on said form. However, this form that's been provided was from the very first meeting. There was nothing provided now. So what I invite you to understand is that in the very first time they came before you in April, it was stated that they had already purchased the property. You remember hearing that. He said, we don't waste any time. We're ready to keep moving forward. This representation application is only signed by Marcelino and Jovito Ramos. That's one of the 3 parcels. Nobody else has signed authorizing him to speak and present on their behalf. You have to consider that. As Robbie mentioned, the planner, under the 3rd one, and if you can speak to that, Robbie, if it affects Texas law and things like that, it can be denied. Can you verify that?
We'll
Not
address
during
your
public
questions at the end of your comments.
Oh,
Do not take
okay.
up your time.
Okay, so on that note, assuming that that is correct, this doesn't give him authorization for the other 2 properties to come and speak to you and engage on their behalf. Having said that, in addition, the statement was made about ownership of said properties. They do not own said properties. The properties are currently held, and I have certified copies of the warranty deeds and as well as a vendor's lien for the property at 1001 Greenbrier. And that one is actually still owned by Marcelino and Jovito Ramos. It's still in their name. So he can speak on their behalf only for that property. The other property which they purchased, they meaning a new LLC, which it's not uncommon for somebody to come in by, create an LLC to do the development under, as Fate Greenbrier LLC are the other 2 parcels. There is no agreement in place for him to come and represent the ownership interest of Fate Greenbrier Road LLC. It's not in the packets. So as a citizen, you would be concerned about that. The other thing that I want to point out as well is that in the documents, there's several other concerns that came about. There's no date on the application. That's kind of a big issue because the date is kind of a determining factor when you go back and you want to look up information. How do you know whether that was from the first hearing that was held on April 17th or from the hearing that we're having today? You don't know. I question that. In addition to that, there are other statements. There's no provision given when you look on page, I believe it's page 17. Hold on. I will tell you exactly, because you have the packet in front of you. If you go to page 14, it states on page 14 at the bottom that the record owner of the properties is Fate Greenbrier Road LLC, which, as I've stated, is not correct, and it lists all 3 properties. The other information is that under applications, it says hardscape, landscape, another name is present, and so in the comments, it says Summa Monde Capital Partners are being identified as the developer. As the developer, not Fate Greenbrier Road LLC, which says is the record owner, and then on other documents, referring to page 15, at the top, it says applicant, parenthesis, developer, subdivider, manager, comma, Fate Greenbrier Road LLC. Who is that? We have no legal documents here that says that that's William Solomon. So I would challenge you to consider that. On page 27, which is under Exhibit C, the plan does not include any indication of each phase of development. And it
Excuse me.
says if separate phases are proposed, that should be listed. That's not checked.
Excuse me, we've gone past the 3-minute time limit.
Oh, okay, no problem. So I request you to deny because you haven't met the criteria by law. Thank you.
I have no, I have no others that have signed up to speak.
Thank you.
Would you like to close the public hearing?
Thank you. So it is now 6:37 in the, or, sorry, 6:27, and public hearing is closed. So now we can discuss. All right. So are there some gaps you could help fill, or Ryan?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend you ask our senior planner or the applicant to clarify any of the questions that the speaker brought up, if you so choose.
Well, Robbie's handy, so perfect.
I got notes.
Before we do that, could we clarify what exactly falls under our purview as planning and zoning and what, based on her comments and what she was saying?
Yes, the commissioners are allowed to consider only legitimate zoning concerns when making their determination as to whether or not to approve or deny.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will clarify before I hand it over to Robbie that part of staff's job in reviewing the applications is making sure that there's legitimacy in the application documentation and appropriate representation of the applicants. And we made that determination when we received the application that those gaps were filled, and we understood that there was multiple property owners and appropriate representations documented in the submittal.
I'm blind.
We'll let Robbie speak, and then.
Okay, so. One of the things here. Okay, so the reason only one of the authorized representative forms was needed was only one property is actually owned by the Ramoses. The other two properties are owned by Fate Greenbrier Road LLC. And in the application form, Mr. Solomon signed off as the representative, or as the owner of the LLC. So all the signatures on the application adequately line up with Rockwall County Appraisal District, which is what staff uses to, staff's reference for all parcel information. RCAD is what we go by. So as far as property owners signing off issues, there is no concern there. Apologies, I do not remember all of
The date on the application form?
Yeah, so the date admittedly is missing. That was an oversight in the application. but the rest of the application is all filled out correctly. It states the 3 ARCAD parcels that are being rezoned, has the proper acreage, has the proper zoning, has the proper uses as far as staff's review of the application, I'm going through this right now to verify this is a complete application for the purposes of a zoning case.
Despite the date missing from the application, are there other ways that we could go back and verify what that date would actually be? Judging, I'm saying
it
by,
would- our
aside from the
submittal
physical.
process-
Okay.
Our submittal process is via email.
Correct.
To the planning@FateTX email.
I just wanted to make sure.
If there was a date issue challenge that came up, we can verify in our planning email. The entire planning staff has access to that. If it went further than that, our IT department has access to our
Perfect.
emails.
Okay, thank you so much.
The 3 lots and parcels that we're talking about today are the same exact 3 parcels as the last time, correct?
That is correct.
And then just, obviously, we heard this about a month, 2 months ago, whenever we heard it last. Can you explain, not just for me, because I feel like I have a good handling of it, but there's going to be people that are watching it, the difference between the straight zoning request R2 that they wanted the last time and the PD request that they want this time? What are the major differences between there, so everybody has a good handle on why we're going from R2 to PD?
Of course. So, excuse me. The R2 is one of the zoning districts, residential suburban density 2. It's outlined, it's one of the zoning districts in Article 3 of the Fate Unified Development Ordinance. If a applicant was requesting R2 zoning, that means they follow the standards outlined in Article 3 for that zoning district. A planned development allows the applicant to essentially change said standards. It's a give and take, so there's a lot of communication with staff as we go through these planned developments. They're more tailor-made towards what towards the application. Now, what a straight zoning doesn't allow you to do is put a development agreement in place. Development agreements are how we get building standards, since the state does not allow us to dictate building materials. One of the concerns at council was that there was no form in which a development agreement, unless voluntarily agreed to, could be enforced. With a planned development, you can require these development agreements be added. Planned developments also, it doesn't stop at what the zoning district, what the zoning lot standards are. You could have architectural standards. Our entire UDO is 12 articles. They can change various definitions, uses allowed. For example, the permitted uses here are single family and amenity center. If they wanted to, they could put in prohibited uses. Other highlights about a planned development, it's more of a tailor-made, it's essentially a tailor-made plan to a specific.
Robbie, can you speak to the council's concerns about the minimum lot size and what this plan development satisfies to address the council's comments?
Yeah, so there were concerns with the, that R2 has a lot size, there's a ranged lot size that's permitted. So there was a concern that the developer could amend the plan that was brought in front of them and propose a different lot size. This, in their proposal, they're requesting we put in the PD that they're doing 5,000 square foot lots. That holds them to that lot size. It takes away any ability to change the lot size. It ties the lots that will go into this development to that size. Essentially assurances that you can't have with a straight zoning case.
And just to clarify, we're not voting on any of those standards today. It's literally just voting on the zoning for PD, correct? Sorry.
That is correct. So staff has 5 recommended conditions. You are voting on the plan development. You do have the ability to recommend additional conditions or amend staff recommended conditions at your prerogative, should you wish to do so.
Can we pull those standards back up on the screen so we can see them again?
I will just add, the development agreement is a separate contract document.
Okay.
That is not before you tonight because that's only for council consideration, but that includes architectural and material standards that the applicant has willingly agreed to. And that's a separate thing altogether. That's not part of the zoning at all.
Thank you.
So is it on everyone's screens? Okay. Do you have any questions on any one of them? We can go over them however you wish, Commissioner.
Okay, on staff recommendation number 2, it says development shall follow the recommendations as reviewed and approved by city staff and consultants from the TIA and the drainage study. Do we know what those are?
Yeah, so the TIA, you mean the recommendations in the TIA and the
Yes.
drainage study?
Yes.
I believe those are still under review, aren't they?
No, the drainage study was pretty straightforward. Just show, it's establishes the floodplain to the north end of the property, which is contained within the open space, so there's not much of a concern there. The TIA ultimately did get approved after 2 reviews. It essentially, recommended a signal at Memorial and Greenbrier at some point, but we have no control over that because that's a state facility. But also, it also recommended dedication of adequate right-of-way for a future widening of Greenbrier Road, and so their concept plan and future plat reflect that right-of-way dedication on the north side of Greenbrier, so they'd have full width for a 3-lane street when the city ultimately comes in and widens it. But it doesn't make sense for them to just widen their section. There's a proportionality issue there, but it's also just functionally not feasible. So they do have that right-of-way dedication in their concept.
And I know that's not things that we take into our consideration, completely understand that, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say I'm still struggling, and even though I did vote yes for this the last time, I'm still struggling with the fact that there are only 2 entrances into this, entrances and exits from this neighborhood, and one of them is, although I do understand that it's a dedicated chute that was supposed to eventually connect into something else, but it's connecting into a neighborhood that has a PID that pays for their roads. So people are going to be putting added stress. But that's just me being remiss and having to make sure I have that on the record.
So drainage.
Yes.
Has Misty, or the engineer, she has reviewed? Okay,
Misty has reviewed it. Yes, Kimley Horn has reviewed it.
okay.
And there's still a civil plan I should add on. The civil plan's gonna have water, sewer, storm, grading, all of that engineering plans is still to come. All we are doing at this stage is getting the zoning entitled. So the previous case was to go straight zoning. That ultimately was denied at council. They came back, made the amendments to, in the form of a plan development to council's concerns. That is what's in front of you right now. All the civil stuff will get addressed. That's just later in the process. It doesn't make sense for an applicant to come forward with a completed civil plan, put the money that goes into a civil design when they don't even have the entitlement yet. That's why the entitlement process comes first.
Understand it, and thank
Yes.
you, Robbie, for that. My admitted hangup with drainage and I understand we're not a policy board, but we can make the recommendation to council that they ask for certain things, and again, Misty, so appreciate you, clarifying that, but my question was more of, did we need to add an additional recommendation that would go in front of council?
So that's what this condition 2, why we have it worded the way we have it worded. The development shall follow the recommendations as reviewed and approved by city staff and the consultant being Misty in this case, for the TIA and the drainage study. As the drainage study was approved, as the director has mentioned, they're in the plating process, in the civil process, in the construction process, they are going to have to comply with said drainage study. If for some reason the drainage study were to need to be updated, they would have to do the drainage study again, and this condition ties them to that. If we put in specific words getting very granular, that may open up, these are the conditions they have to follow. So if that condition would no longer apply, and we made this a granular, there's a chance that, oh, well, this drainage condition doesn't apply, so we don't have to follow it, right? If we leave it broad like this, no matter what happens with the drainage study down the line, they got to comply with that.
Understood. Thank you, Robbie. Any other questions for Robbie on the board? Okay. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Any questions for developer? Okay. All right. Any additional discussions?
No, I think all the questions were answered and cleared up.
And with all that, take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve case ZR 25007.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We got a second. All vote. Motion passes. Item number 5.
All right, item number 5 is Director of Planning and Development Services report / announcements pertaining to city activities, upcoming events, future legislative activities, and other matters related thereto.
All right. Well, since Robbie got to do all the talking, I have a few things I need to say. I just wanted to say, as we come to the end of this term, for certain, 3 of them aren't here tonight, so whatever, but David, your term I know is ending. I just wanted to once again say thank you for being such a wonderful commission to work with. You always have such great questions. You challenge us. You challenge us to do the best job we can to bring all the facts to you, and you make informed decisions on behalf of the city. So thank you very much. I look forward to continuing to work with some of you, and I do expect we're going to have some fresh faces come July, and we do have some projects coming in July, so things are just going to keep on keeping on. So again, thank you, and feel free to reach out to me outside of the meetings. If you ever have questions, you want to sit down and talk about general planning stuff in the city, we're happy to share that with you as well. But that's about it for now.
Okay, next item, item 6, adjournment.
Take a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, vote. And motion passes. It is 6:45.